As more and more candidates jump in the race for president, we look at how millennial voters could be the biggest factor come 2020. How lawmakers are pushing back on the president for his decision to pull troops out of Syria. And the fight against human trafficking at the southern border. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The race for 2020 is up and running. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. As Democrats all try to set themselves apart in a very crowded field, there's one group of voters they all want to appeal to, and that is millennials.
Republicans need them too, but historically have struggled to connect with younger voters. And if that doesn't change, it could cost the GOP greatly this time around.
Come 2020, millennials will be the largest voting bloc, surpassing baby boomers. And that could spell real trouble for the GOP.
There's a number of things happening at once.
Republican strategist John Brabender sees a potential perfect storm. First, millennials aged 20 to 34 are bigger in number and more engaged than ever.
Number two is you also have this increased engagement by them. It used to be younger voters were somewhat apathetic and they would increase their participation as they got older, but we found in the midterms that in a lot of the states, in fact, the most targeted states, saw this big increase as much as 10% by millennial voters.
They also overwhelmingly voted for Democrats in 2016. And number three.
Number three is how they get their news has changed dramatically. They're leading sort of the cord-cutting revolution. They're spending a lot more time on connected TV, watching even on smartphones rather than traditional TV. And where they go for their content for news is sort of this blending, if you will, of entertainment and politics.
For example, Brabender says many young voters are more likely to watch a show like Saturday Night Live than the nightly news. That's a space Republicans have almost no presence.
There's got to be some changes or we're going to lose an entire generation of voters for all practical purposes.
He says Republicans need to figure out how to reach millennials.
Spending as much as we can simply on 30-second commercials doesn't work as much as it used to, at least not to this audience. In fact, Adweek magazine did a study and found in the midterm elections, 40% of millennials said they did not remember seeing one political ad.
And more than that, he says messaging is critical.
Even tone and tenor matters a lot. We have a tendency to want to sell and preach and lecture, whereas, this audience cares more about education and learning and coming to their own conclusion.
And on actual issues.
We've ignored everything from climate change to student loans to other issues that we haven't seen important enough, but they do, and so we have to start talking there.
Yeah, and it's not just millennials. Brabender says the young people after them, Generation Z, will create even more of a challenge for Republicans down the road. He says there is no more waiting out that storm.
Well, another day, another candidate running for the White House. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker is the latest politician to announce a bid to be president, timing the announcement to coincide with the start of Black History Month. A theme of his campaign is We Will Rise, the title of a video he released today with clips highlighting his background and his vision for the future. A Yale Law School grad and Rhodes Scholar, he first drew attention as a young, vibrant mayor of Newark. Booker served in the Senate, or has served in the Senate for the past 5 years, and joins an already crowded Democratic field.
And CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody joins us now for more. David, Cory Booker, he launched this campaign early this morning, but last night he was at a church, and there was another video that went out today of people praying over him, laying hands on him. Faith going to be a big element of his campaign, it seems.
Yeah, right off the get-go, even the oil out in force as well. So, I mean, they were anointing him with oil. This was before he announced officially for president of the United States. So Cory Booker is going to be an interesting guy to watch. He grew up in a very religious household, African Methodist Episcopal Church, and is not afraid to talk about his faith, unlike, wait for it, Hillary Clinton in 2016, who decided to run away from her Methodist faith. But Cory Booker is not, and there are a lot of other candidates also that we're starting to see that as well.
David, Booker isn't the only one who's talking about his faith within the Democratic Party. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Kirsten Gillibrand. I mean, she's out actually and saying that Donald Trump's policies are, wait for it, biblically evil. That's an actual quote. So she's already talking there. She was actually in an African-American church talking about wearing, or basically putting on the full armor of God. I mean, they are all, they're in. They're in, and we should do a story about it.
Yeah,
we should do a segment, should we not?
Yeah, we really should.
Yeah, so have me back if you don't mind. But
yeah,
so it's not just her. There's just a lot of others. Kamala Harris has a story as well. So,
well, David, let's talk about some of these others, and some you know who have announced, and others who are getting close to throw their hats into the ring.
All right, well, let's go down the list. I'm glad you asked, shall we? Shoshana, cue the graphic. First of all, there she is, Elizabeth Warren. She's in from her home, her Instagram situation. That was interesting. Anyhow. A grade of A on the progressive scale. Look at that, 99.33. How do they do the decimals on that? I don't understand. Let's keep going. So she's going to be in officially soon here. There's Kamala Harris, also another grade A, 98.80 progressive score. This is from a progressive group that keeps these statistics. I had no idea they were getting down to the decimal point. Let's keep on moving. We'll just go on. And there's Kirsten Gillibrand, grade A, 98.14. And then we have some folks that haven't quite announced. Well, the Cory Booker just did, 97.94. But you notice the trend here. They're all A's, and they're all within point whatever of each other. And Bernie Sanders as well, who will eventually announce. And then look at the last one. This is interesting. Here we go. Ooh, a grade C. Amy Klobuchar, 88.59. Yeah. Watch out for her because obviously she's a C, and that might be more moderate.
Yeah, keyword her. A lot of women in this.
Yeah, which is funny because Kellyanne Conway came out today and said that Cory Booker's campaign is already sexist. Because why is he getting in the race? Because there's all these women. They're accomplished. So he shouldn't get in the race. What is he doing?
Yeah.
Once again, tongue-in-cheek. But the Liberals have a lot of
it's a very
work
diverse
to
field.
do. It's a diverse field, but they've got some issues. I mean, the abortion stuff we've talked about, and a lot of these other issues, single payer, how far left are they going to go? And if they go too far left, Donald Trump is right there in 2020.
He was tweeting about it the other day.
I'm sure he was.
All right, thank you, David.
Well, new signs tonight ISIS could retake territory in Syria. More details are expected in a report to the Pentagon set to be made public next week. But the news comes just months after President Trump's surprise announcement of a U.S. withdrawal from the country. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us as the Senate prepares to vote on a final bill opposing the president's planned withdrawal. Abigail?
Thanks. Senators on both sides of the aisle came together Thursday on a bill that rebukes President Trump's plan in Syria. Now, this measure is part of a broader Middle East policy that's expected to pass the Senate next week. And Majority Leader Mitch McConnell took the lead on proposing this amendment.
ISIS and al-Qaeda have yet to be defeated.
That statement from the Majority Leader was a direct hit against this.
And we have won against ISIS.
Senators voted overwhelmingly against the president's assessment, siding with testimony presented at a Senate intelligence hearing this week.
ISIS is intent on resurging and still commands thousands of fighters in Iraq and Syria.
President Trump at first said America's top spies are wrong.
I disagree with certain things that they said. I think I'm right.
Then, after a closed-door meeting with intelligence heads, the president said his intel team was, quote, mischaracterized.
They said that they were totally misquoted and they were totally, it was taken out of context.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders told CBN News this week that the U.S. will maintain a presence in the region until ISIS is, quote, completely destroyed.
And the idea that the president is just stepping away and ignoring any potential problem doesn't understand the fundamental decision that he's made. He wants to bring our troops home out of Syria, but we're not leaving the region.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Thursday the White House will continue to put pressure on ISIS and added this tease.
Well, the president will make a significant announcement, I think, in the State of the Union next week with respect to the status of the caliphate.
That doesn't seem to be enough for Republican lawmakers.
That it is a mistake to proceed with withdrawal from Syria in the pace and scale that is currently proposed or that the White House has announced. that they're going to undertake.
With Florida Senator Marco Rubio saying the troop withdrawal will come back to haunt the U.S.
We can ignore ISIS and we can ignore al-Qaeda and we can ignore Iran, but they will not ignore us. As if we allow al-Qaeda and ISIS, or both, to have a resurgence, they will attack the United States of America.
Now, this bill is expected to pass the Senate next week with a broad bipartisan support and then move on to the House. But the real question will come if and when it makes it to the president's desk.
All right, we will see. Abigail Robertson for us on the Hill. Thank you. Well, Christians in Syria fear the pullout of U.S. troops could lead to possible genocide by Turkey. CBN's Chris Mitchell traveled to northeast Syria and talked with believers, hoping and praying President Trump changes his mind.
With the pullout of U.S. troops, Christians here in northeast Syria told us their future hangs in the balance. With the region on the brink of chaos, they're fearful and warning of a new genocide. Just a few years ago, ISIS left a scar on the land in the form of an historic genocide. Now Christians fear another potential apocalypse with enemies all around them. Turkey is the main concern.
After the threats of Erdogan to this region that he wants to take the place of the great force of America, we felt danger because of this void. If it was filled by the countries of this region or another power, there will be danger in general for the people, and especially the Christian people.
The reason many people in northeast Syria are afraid of Turkey is because of what happened last year in northwest Syria, the Turkish invasion of Afrin. In January 2018, its army, along with Islamic militias called the Free Syrian Army, began a military campaign to capture the city of Afrin. Charmaine Heading of the Shai Fund lays out the Turks' goals.
We know from what the statements that they've made that they want to get rid of the people in this area and bring in other people from Syria. So it's a population displacement.
To find out more about the Afrin campaign, we traveled here to the city of Kobani and this evangelical church. Last year, Christians fled Afrin during the Turkish operation to take over the city. Some came here to Kobani to find refuge, security, and a place to worship. Zani pastors this church. He and his wife Shinar fled Afrin.
Everything in the church has been stolen. It's the terrorists' very natural behavior, and they burned the church.
Islamic soldiers allied with Turkey killed her cousin's child.
There were a group of people with weapons that entered our neighborhood and they were stealing. So my cousin went out and asked them, "What are you doing?" So the man with weapons attacked my cousin's house and shot and killed his son.
Turkish President Erdogan has threatened a similar campaign into northeast Syria. When Çınar heard about President Trump's decision, she prayed.
Every day we cried and prayed to the Lord that we would not end up like Afrin.
President Trump's decision surprised them.
We love the American president a lot. I have said that he is a believer and that he prays. And so I was surprised. Why did President Trump do this? That he immediately wants to withdraw the forces from here. Is it possible that he was not considering the church or that he doesn't know that there are believers here?
In all, there's about 100,000 Christians in northeast Syria, most fearful of genocide. President Trump slowed down his timetable to pull out U.S. troops. But for Christians here, they're hoping and praying for much more than that. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Kobani, northeast Syria.
And for more news from the Middle East, tune in to watch Jerusalem Dateline on the CBN News Channel. The show airs every Friday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. For more information, head to cbnnewschannel.com.
Well, tonight, growing tension with Russia as the U.S. announces its withdrawal from a nuclear arms treaty between the two countries. The move comes after administration reports of Russia violating the deal. Back in October, the Trump administration issued a 60-day warning to Moscow to begin adhering to the rules of the treaty.
We provided Russia an ample window of time to mend its ways and for Russia to honor its commitment. Tomorrow that time runs out. The United States will therefore suspend its obligations under the INF Treaty effective February 2nd.
The treaty dates back to 1987. The U.S. exit is prompting fears of a potential nuclear arms race with Russia.
President Trump is preparing for his State of the Union speech, and according to the White House, one of his topics will include abortion in America.
He may ask Democrats. I'm not going to tell you what's in the speech. I've seen it, but maybe he'll ask Democrats in view of the new news. Why do you object to the pain-capable bill that nonpartisan scientists say a baby can feel pain after the 20th week? And now we've got governors and state legislators in many places, but most illustratively and recently in New York and Virginia, saying that a baby can have his or her life snuffed out of him or her 20 weeks after 20 weeks. I mean, this is who we are as Americans.
The State of the Union is this coming Tuesday night, and CBN News will be providing special live coverage of the president's speech, including Jenna and myself and the entire DC News team, as well as crews at the Capitol and the White House. You can watch our special coverage live on the CBN News channel beginning at 8:30 Eastern Tuesday night.
And a big night it is. Well, coming up, the fight to end human trafficking here at home. We'll look at what the U.S. is doing to combat the problem.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com to get your copy today.
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back. Well, in just 14 days, the U.S. could face another government shutdown. A group of Democratic and Republican lawmakers are meeting to come up with a possible deal. But the president is holding firm to his demand that any agreement include money for a border wall with Mexico. Today, he said if not, he confirmed he was willing to go around Congress and declare an emergency at the southern border.
We will be looking at a national emergency because I don't think anything's going to happen. I think the Democrats don't want border security. And when I hear them talking about the fact that walls are immoral and walls don't work, we're getting nowhere with the Democrats. We're not going to get anywhere with them. It's going to be a part of their campaign, but I don't think it's good politically.
Well, President Trump made those comments at a White House meeting focused on human trafficking at the southern border.
For more on that, we're joined now by CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Ben?
Well, John and Jenna, today Ivanka Trump, daughter and advisor to the president, called human trafficking the gravest of human rights violations. It's estimated about 600 to 800,000 people are trafficked across international borders every year, and that women and girls represent the largest group of trafficking victims. Well, President Trump tackled the crisis during roundtable talks to try and hash out a solution to end this crisis.
Human trafficking is worse now than it's ever been in the history of our world. It's a world problem. It's a U.S. problem, but it's a world problem caused to a certain extent by the internet. One of the reasons that we have it so bad is the internet. That's why it's picked up tremendously over the last 5 years.
Now, Trump gave those remarks on the heels of a major human trafficking bust in California, where 339 people were arrested and more than 50 victims, that is, rescued, over a dozen children. Now, I just spoke with Linda Smith, who is the president and founder of Shared Hope International, which is dedicated to bringing an end to sex trafficking. Well, Linda, President Trump just wrapped up a meeting on human trafficking. What advice would you give the commander-in-chief to combat this crisis?
I would say that he's getting a lot of advisors, but I would want him to think of every child, whether they come across the border or they're in our communities, as a vulnerable child in need of protection. So he should be really looking at those borders. And some kid says, this is my auntie. No, that might not be true.
Now, Linda, you're talking about the victims walking amongst us. It is really hard to detect sometimes who needs help. How do you do that?
What Shared Hope International does is we just look at children as vulnerable. And we look at the federal law that says any child that is in prostitution, performance, or pornography, or we're suspect that they're vulnerable to that we as a nation and communities across the nation should be protecting those children. So we believe we should teach everyone around the children, whether they're border agents, and really there is good training there, whether they are communities of support like the social workers, the teachers, others, to identify the signs of trafficking. The border is a vulnerable place, and I wouldn't want the kids to be caught between the right and the left or the negative at all, because we should have a methodical system, which we have had at the border and need to continue, even if there's all these children. We should slow it down, take a look at these children, and don't just let them go with whatever family they were with back into the population.
Linda, you are a part of Shared Hope International, which is dedicated to bringing an end to sex trafficking. Can you break down the latest efforts by your organization?
Shared Hope International has what is called the Shared Hope International Institute of Justice and Policy. And we make sure every state has laws that deal with children who are traffic victims under the federal and state laws. And those laws be strong enough to be implemented. So the border states have big issues, but as do all the rest of the nation when it comes to dealing with these children. So we're strengthening the laws, bringing about justice for these children, and we're convening groups all over the United States to help.
Bottom line, President Trump said a wall or barrier would help prevent human trafficking into the U.S. It's one reason why he's just not backing down from demanding border wall funding be a part of any deal with lawmakers to keep the government running. John, Jenna?
All right, thank you, Ben. Well, just days from the big game, we head to Atlanta to talk to players about faith and football when we come back.
It seems we've been left alone.
The law states that no person shall convert any person from one religious faith to another.
Who is he?
And yet not one missionary has been charged.
Graham Staines, nice to properly meet you.
You bring me evidence of illegal conversion by Graham Staines. I'll give you a permanent position.
Need new floors? Empire today makes getting beautiful new floors easy. Impossible? Let me show you. Empire brings hundreds of samples to you. We call it Shop at Home. The floors are high quality and come with great warranties. Plus, Empire handles the installation. You don't lift a finger, and the job's done right. Shop at Home, quality floors, professional installation. That's Empire today.
Get $250 off new floors. Call the special number on your screen now.
Attention! If you currently do not get health insurance through your employer, or if you do not have health insurance, or if you just got divorced or married, had a baby, moved, or lost your health insurance coverage, listen closely. You are eligible for a new health care plan using Health Insurance America. A family of 4 can make up to $97,000 a year and still qualify for a new health care plan. Get coverage for doctor visits, prescriptions, hospital, dental, and vision for as little as $25 a week with copays as low as $0. Health insurance rates have nearly doubled in the last 3 years. Stop paying the rising cost of traditional major medical and learn how Health Insurance America is saving people thousands of dollars a year on their health care plans. Don't waste hours on the phone or on a government website. Talk to a live healthcare consultant right now.
Call 1-800-940-5020. That's 1-800-940-5020. 1-800-940-5020.
Jenna, get this. In the span of 17 years, the New England Patriots have gone from underdogs to what some people call evil empire. 9 Super Bowl appearances and a fistful of rings have created that effect.
It seems like you either love them or hate them.
That's right.
Yeah, well, when the CBN's Tom Buring talked to several players on Media Day, he found that the Patriots way is much more than Brady, Belichick, and broken rules. It's a focus on the team itself, and it's bolstered by faith.
The New England Patriots are an NFL dynasty, holding 5 world championships and 9 conference titles over the past 18 seasons. Sunday, they make their 3rd straight Super Bowl appearance. Long-running success can fuel antagonism, where the achiever becomes the enemy. It comes with the territory. But at the core of the Patriots dynasty is a haven for players to cultivate their convictions.
Tell me about the demeanor and the faith. What makes it unique with this team?
There's something that you don't expect. I think outside looking in, the way that the media covers our team, faith isn't the first thing that comes to mind. We work in such a high-stress environment that you run into pitfalls day in and day out, and you don't think you're good enough, and you start doubting your stuff, and it's this and it's that, and then you have leaders like Matthew Slater, like Devin McCourty, that comes along and they lift you up with words of encouragement.
Dwayne Allen just told us what might surprise most people looking from the outside in. It's not just the discipline of the team, but the spiritual value that the team has.
It's very, awesome to be a part of. So many great guys, so many solid guys. We've grown as a team because you don't play for yourself, and those earthly glories, stats, awards, whatnot. You play for God's glory, and that's to go out there, glorify Him with the talents He's given you, make the most of those abilities, and to give all the praise to Him.
How does your Christ following impact you, prepare you for moments like this?
I think it allows you to not think of this moment as too big. I think, my guy Matt Slater says it before every game, win, lose, or tie, we know we already have victory because Christ did that on Calvary. And I think having that message allows you to kind of just relax and go play football.
Is the spiritual support that players have within the New England organization, what makes that spiritual support, Matthew, unique?
I think we have a lot of guys on this team that really get the big picture. It's not about us. It's not about, ultimately at the end of the day, it's not about what we're doing on the football field. It's about how we're growing in our walks with Christ, how we can bring Him more glory, how we can pick up the lessons that He wants us to learn. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Well, I think we had to draw on a lot of faith this year. There were a lot of times where our destination, our end road looked a little cloudy, but through it all, we maintained faith in one another. We maintained faith in our process, and we're here. And we're so thankful for what God's done to build our character through that process and just enjoying the ride.
And this weekend, catch Football Sunday right here on the CBN News Channel. Hear stories from players throughout the NFL. It's all hosted by New Orleans Saint tight end Benjamin Watson on location in New Orleans. That airs at 1, 5, 8, and 11 p.m.
You going to be watching the Super Bowl?
I am, of course.
Who are you rooting for?
Well, I would have been rooting for the Saints because I spent some time down there, but, the Patriots, we'll go with them.
Have a great weekend.